Hello, this is Bonnie, and today I'm going to be working on a Halloween type card, and a couple of things that I was going to show you is how to do this fog down below, which really isn't difficult, and just how I'm going to go ahead and make this card. So this is the example of what I'm going to be doing today, and what I'm going to be using are some stamps from Fairy Hugs, and this one happens to be Ziggy. And then this one is the Tree Castle, perfect for Halloween. And then I'm also going to be using what we call Spooky Moons. Now I'm going to be using some water today on my card base, well actually the layer. And so I'm using a little bit thicker card. This is not water color card, although I would suggest using that. I just already had this set aside. This happens to be cut at what's a little bit bigger than 6 inches, but it's roughly 6 inches, so 6 by 6. And to start, all I'm going to do, I'm going to lift this up just a little bit, okay, and to start we're going to use a stamping platform like we usually do, and I am going to stamp these two images on here with black Nocturne, well actually it's called Nocturne, VersaFine Clair Nocturne. Get this centered, and just going to go ahead and set this up. Let me get that up further. And I mean, it's just a matter of Ziggy looking like he's walking. He's going to go trick-or-treating, and he's going to trick-or-treat at this tree castle. And that's basically all we're going to do. I'm going to put this down further. And then what I'm going to do this time, because I'm going to be inking over these two things, I am going to be also using clear embossing powder so that it does not affect the stamping I've done. So basically this is all I'm going to do, stamp, 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 and then clear emboss. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like stamped. And then I'll go ahead and clear emboss that off to the side. Sometimes when I use a more porous paper, I have to stamp it twice because it absorbs quickly. But this one looks pretty good. Now I can see, yeah. So I'm going to add a little bit more tape because I noticed this part over here lift it up a little, and I don't want it to move. Okay. Okay, ink this up again. Now I do the moon separately because it's a different ink and it doesn't last as long. So I totally do the moon separately. I come back in and stamp the moon after I've embossed these. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly emboss these, and I'll be back to show you the moon. Okay, so I have the stamps stamped, as I said, and clear embossed. The next thing I'm going to do is the moon. And all I do for the moon is I use Distress Oxide Gloss Shadow. It's one of my favorites. It works perfectly for basically a really nice shadowed background. I absolutely love it. Tone on tone type look with your paper. It's perfect. So that's how I usually use the ink, is I usually kind of like rub it across the stamp and then tap on it. Let's just see how that one works. So you can see how light that is. It needs to be a little bit darker. So again, I'm kind of like rubbing this across and tapping, trying to make sure I do get the ink on there and not so much all over my platform. And again, this does not have a really long time of staying wet. So that's why I do it separately, just because I want to make sure I give myself enough time. Okay, now that's perfect. All right, so again, I'm going to go ahead really quickly and get the clear embossing powder on it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got all of that embossing. You can see how that shines, so you know that it's clear embossed. And so the next step, we're done stamping, and so the next step is to use Distress Oxide, and the top part of it, I am going to be using Distress Oxide Chip Sapphire. Now there's a couple different ways I've done this in the past. I have just smushed it on, well actually I've smushed it on and then put it across. I have also just used my blending brush and put it across. I'm going to do a combination of both this time, but I'm just going to basically very lightly mist this up. And I'm also going to be using, like I said, my blending brush. And I'm going to give this just a slight mist at the top. Not much. I don't like I said, a lot of warping going on. So then I'm just going to take this over here and start going across. Now you're going to see these raised up bumps on here and everything else because my media mat has raised edges, or things I've done behind. So it's just going to give that to me. If you don't like that, you're going to want to have this be on completely something smooth. So obviously I don't have enough ink, so this is going to take me a little bit longer. The other thing is, if you rub too hard with your blending brush, you're going to raise up the fibers as they're wet, and it will start to, I want to call it pile, kind of like your sweater would. If you, I think it's called sweater piling. So I am also going to start misting my blending brush. I need a little bit more water. I can see I'm not getting as much of the smooth inking as I want. And that did take me a little while when I did my sample to add the ink up here at the top. But that's the thing, is to get this to the darkness that you want it, and I want it a lot darker. So I'm going to add a lot more ink here. So that's the whole point, is to get that as inky as you can. And I actually kind of like that it has a little bit of the white showing. It looks like clouds in the end. But you can keep, like I said, just keep adding more and more till you get to the point where you like it. And it'll never be the same because it has you just brush it across. It's all going to be totally one of a kind. Just depends on what your tools are, how much ink you add. And like I said, I'm going to go down. I'm going to show you how far down I went on this other one. I went like probably 2/3 of a way down. Again, there's nothing set. It's just kind of like what I did. So as this is drying, I will come back in and add more. But for right now, we're going to leave it like this, and we're going to work on the bottom. Because I'll come back in. It's got to dry up, and because it needs more ink on it, and I will add more as it's drying. So I'm going to clean this one off, because the next step is to get that bottom part and the fog going. And again, it's a process of allowing it to dry in between. So we are going to pull out Lost Shadow first. It's not gonna, you're not going to see a whole lot, but because it's very light. But I need that for the background, and I'm also using the same brush, and I'm going to do a darker. So I'm going to do the lighter first, and I'm going to mist that up a bit. Mist up my paper below. And we're just going to rub that across. Again, you're not going to see a lot of anything on this part. but it's there. It does dull the background. So I'm leaving that on. Okay, so that really needs to dry a little bit. And then the next thing we will do is use Hickory smoke. And then we will do the fog. But this gives our base for the fog so it shows up. The Hickory smoke is very important. I am going to go ahead and dry this a little bit and be right back. Okay, so I've got this dried off so I can go ahead and add my second layer. And again, I'm using Hickory smoke and a little bit of water on that and my blending brush. And I kind of like want this to be kind of swirly on here, so I'm not going like straight across. You can see how I'm kind of like doing this really light sweeping motion across. But I want enough of this so that my fog will also show. Okay, so one other thing that I do is I do make a spot where the cat is standing on something, and I use that with the Hickory smoke. So basically I have a torn piece of paper and I figure out how I want to make the little hill that he's standing on. I'm going to go ahead and use this ink up. I'll make sure I get his feet. And that makes it more solid, obviously. And that's what he'll be standing on. I'll go down further. Okay, so you can see how he's standing and looking across. So that kind of tells your story. Okay, and so now what I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit more ink to the top up there so it's not as blotchy, and then we're going to go ahead and do the fog. Okay, so I've got a little bit added to the back, to the sky, and I also misted it to get these little drops. I did not do that in my original sample, but I did that in here. So the next thing you're going to need is gesso for our fog. And you can really use any brand. I'm just, this is what I have in my stash. And you don't need a lot. But whatever you use, you'll be able to even splatter with if you like to splatter. Splatter is never one of my, it's something I don't do really well sometimes. I'm always pleased when something does happen right. All right, so I'm going to have a little bit of this, and I add a little bit of water. I want it to be a little bit fluid. And then the other thing I like to use is a brush that's, I don't want to say, this is actually a cheap brush, but one that's rough and not consistent at the top. You see how it has little, it's just rough. I want to call it rough. And that works really good for what I want to do. So then all I do is I come over here to the, oops, I didn't really show you that very well, did I? That's the gesso. That's how much I put on, and a very small amount of water. Just to start. I just want my brush to have some of this. And then I'm just going to do like a swirling motion, kind of like what I did already with the blending brush and the Hickory smoke. And in this case, I'm just going to, here's if I can do it so you can see it better this way. I'm just going to have this come in, and it actually is going to go over the black part because it shows up really well. And it could be the other one showed up a little bit better too because of how much Hickory smoke I had behind. And so I think I'm going to add, from the looks of it, I need to add a little bit more Hickory smoke. So I think I'm going to do that too. We'll see. I'm going to get going and see how this looks, but I do want it to show up. And I just, like I said, just randomly wisp that across to make it look like, and right now it's got texture too, which I really like. I'm trying to make that look a little, but I think I'm going to need to add a little bit more dark to the background. And I'm going to do that, and I can come back with that. But that's how that part is going to look. I'm going to let this dry and work on another part really quickly, because then I'll be able to add the hickory smoke. So I want to give some glow to the moon. And I have a pencil, a Prisma pencil, that it's kind of like a fluorescent, but green yellow. And so all I do is I come into this part and I color inside of that. And because it was blue, it works really well with yellow. Yellow and blue make green, so that gives us our eerie glow for our moon and all the little craters. Now obviously I can't color the ink because I've put embossing powder on it. So I'm only just putting it on the parts that have not been inked in the moon. Now that gives that part of the glow. Now if you want to give it a little bit more glow, very lightly go around the edge of the moon. And then as you go away, lift up your arm or your hand a little bit more so it's even lighter. So you don't want to have a really dark ring, or you might, then you can. But as you go away, lift up your hand and make it softer so it looks like it glows. So closer, a little bit harder, not a lot. And then as you go away, a little bit lighter. As far as you want the glow to go. And you can, stop, pull it back and say, all right, I need a little bit more here, or I need a little bit more there. But basically that's how I do it, is I do it a little bit heavier, if you want to call it that, close to the outside of the moon, and then as I go away, I lighten it. And I think that works pretty good. And you have a little bit of control when you do the pencils, so I kind of like that. And if you don't, and you're not really happy, sometimes you can, there's an eraser I use. It's called Magic Rub from Prismacolor. And I will use that to lighten out. It usually always keeps the color, but it really lightens it. So like say you went too heavy, you can always lighten it even that way. So that gives her a little bit of a glow to our moon. So the next thing I like to do is inside of the, I think it was called, what did I call it? Tree castle. Yeah, tree castle. These parts are not solid. So I again can come inside of there and make all of those glow. And you can color right over the embossing. It doesn't really matter because it doesn't do anything. And that is really simple coloring. And it gives you the effect of a haunted mansion that's kind of glowing from the moon. That looks really kind of cool. All right, so to add, like I said, I think I'm going to add a little bit more down here. I've not done this, which is cool because then you guys can see how I'm going to add to this. I do like the way the fog is, but I think I need a little bit more, darkness just so the white shows up a little bit more. So we're going to go back to what we did, see what happens. Otherwise, you can keep it just like this. So you know that we've gotten to this point and you know what you're doing for here. But if you come back and say, hey, I want it to show up more, let's go ahead and use let's see if we can do this. If we can go right on top of what we've already done. So I misted this, and I'm just going to come into this and see what happens. If it doesn't work, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. We can add, I'm pretty sure we can add more gesso to the top without a problem. So again, you can see that I'm making that darker now. I think the gesso will show up a little bit better. Okay, So that's darker now. And I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna heat it up so we can get done quicker and put some more gesso on there. Okay? Okay, so the first thing I can see I need to do right away is make this a little bit darker of what he's standing on. And so I'm going to bring this back to about where I did it before. And I'm going to add a little bit more hickory smoke right there. Again, the gesso that I did put on it will affect that part, and that's okay. Just trying to give that a little bit more eeriness. Okay, I think that looks good. All right, so I'm going to wipe that little bit off down below, and we're going to go back to the gesso. So we are going to get my brush, because this is dried up now. And maybe if I use a part that's not as watered down too, it will look better. Yep, now we're getting the look. It could be it was too watered down too. You can see that now really well. And this also, like I said, gives it a really cool texture. I don't know if you can hear the bristles, but because they're stiff. Now again, this will totally cover up what you have, so you don't, you still want to have the illusion of being able to see what's underneath. Now, as it's wet, you can also pull back any of this. If you say you didn't want that much on the cat, get your paper towel, or you can get a Q-tip, whatever, get it slightly damp, and just go over that a little bit. Now that part's already dried, but some of it's not. And you see I can pull that away because I did the heat embossing, clear embossing powder. So that kind of gives you your foggy look. And you can just, play with that and make it look like it's swirling. And I think that works really, really well. All right, so the next thing I do is I take this gesso, I do put a little bit more. Like I said, this has never been one of my attributes, I guess, is doing splattering. I don't know why. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm using this fan brush, and I'm using the gesso that I had left with a little bit more water. And then all you do is you just come in here and splatter. And actually, for some reason, this decided to work for me this time. So I have a little bit of stars. I am going to have to get this off the kitty cat. I don't want it there. There we go. So if you don't want it, get it right away, and it works. Okay. And so now we've got like I really like how this moon works out using the lost shadow. It really looks like it's glowing, and when you put it up against the dark, it's kind of cool. So that is the techniques for today, and I will go ahead and put this card on a card base and take a picture for you, and we'll be done for today. I totally enjoyed that you were here today, and like I said, will always have the information in the description below. Thanks so much.